Hey, welcome back here to Carillon Historical Park in Dayton, Ohio. I'll tell you, we're becoming all too familiar with terms like social distancing and becoming reacquainted with terms like quarantine. Not fun subjects. But how did Daytonians deal with similar issues 100 years ago? Well, some of those answers can be found here at Carillon Park. A lot of you might be familiar with the building behind me. It's our History on the Hill exhibit. And in that building, we tell stories about the development of Carillon Park and how the property was used prior to it becoming a museum. One of those stories involves the decision to build Dayton's quarantine hospital. And that hospital sat right up on top of the hill right here in what now is Carillon Park property. The decision was made in 1887, and it stood up there for about 60 years. They referred to it as the Pest House, short for pestilence. And during that 60 years, it was built to try and isolate people that had been afflicted with smallpox and then eventually tuberculosis. In 1953, when the park was opened, the museum was established, it was taken down. But we did a few years ago an excavation up there, and there are some remnants that are still left up on that hill. And if you've got a few minutes, I'd like to show up to you. Let's go take a look. Okay, here we are. We're going up the path. Now we're approaching the back of what was the quarantine hospital here, and we have some waysides here that talk all about it. And this is such an incredible area of Carillon Park, and I don't think a lot of folks realize it. They head up the stairs to use the tube slides and have a lot of fun there. But if you continue down that path, you'll approach the back of this archaeological site. And it is the remnants of this quarantine hospital. So you can see where the stairs went into the basement here. It's the only physical remnant left. And then these stairs that went up to the back porch of the hospital as well. There's also this really neat little pond back here. It's kind of a decorative stone-lined pond. And we're not sure if this was a fish pond or if this just kind of a garden pond or what have you. But the hospital was up here. Of course, none of these trees would have been here. This was all cleared. The whole hillside was cleared. And not only was the hospital here, but the family that took care of it, the people that took care of it. So there, Mary Ann von Grazier was the matron of the hospital for a quarter of a century. And so she lived up here with her husband, and they raised 6 kids up here. You imagine growing up at the quarantine hospital in town here. But that all happened here on the property. And so because of that, this was their backyard. And so they had their gardens back here, and there's now this kind of this epic battle between the plants. There are the introduced there's the vinca and the lilies, and then as you look around, you can see these incredible outcroppings of the native wildflowers. So the Virginia bluebells are about to come out, and you can see here's a bunch of bloodroot that's just a bloodroot that's in full bloom. The water leaf and fun stuff. So anyway, Dutchman's britches over here, but great place to take a look. But sobering too when you think about what this is and what happened here. We had an excavation. I'll bring you back here. We had an excavation a number of years ago, and you can see what the family lived with. So here are some things. These are not cleaned, not just part of the extra pieces of artifacts that we have. The curators are going to get after me, but they haven't cleaned these yet. But you can see the glassware and the dishes and the stemware, even some canning jars and medicine vial tops. So pretty amazing, pretty cool things we found up here. Well, let's go up to the front and take a look at the approach. Okay, and here we are. We're out of this clearing. Now, there was a big circle driveway out here that came around and they would drop people off. It was a drop-off point. But we're up on top of the hill. We have trails up here and picnic shelters and so forth. It's very nice. And but here is the approach. Here was where the drop-off was. The hospital sat right there. It was a small building. It was a small stucco building. It had 20 beds in it. So it was built in 1887, really as a preventative measure. the idea being, and the first folks that were being dealt with were folks that had contracted smallpox. So the idea was to quarantine people, so it to stop the spread, right? So if you didn't have the ability to quarantine yourself at your home, or there was some large extended family, you wanted to be away from everybody, they would send you up to the quarantine hospital. So that was the whole point. And it wasn't packed all the time. I mean, there were, over the 60 years, there were estimated 1,200, just shy of 1,200 people that went through the quarantine hospital. So it was here to deal with quarantining people if that was necessary. First was smallpox, and then tuberculosis, and other social diseases that they talk about. They said, oh, this person should be quarantined. But during that time, over 60 years, 1,100 and some people up here at the site. So pretty sobering. And when you think about what was here, Carillon Park at that time was a swamp, and the Great Miami River ran through it. And then on the other side, if you look back behind me, you can see Calvary Cemetery. So how sobering is that? You're diagnosed with smallpox, and you're dropped off at this place between the cemetery and a swamp. Not a good situation. Oh my gosh! But Marianne had a wonderful reputation, and they did a very good job of taking care of people. But this is a small little piece of Carillon Park here in Dayton, Ohio, that a lot of people haven't seen. They're not aware of it. A little piece of history for you. So again, thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time here at Carillon Historical Park in Dayton, Ohio. Take care.